The problems facing New Zealand's primary sector have been mounting at a rapid pace. So I think it's time for open hearts and open minds.
3, 2, 1, take off. Welcome on board Sarah's Country tonight. Strap yourself in as we get ready for liftoff. Rocket Lab's New Zealand rocket launch on the Mahia Peninsula tonight. It was called Don't Stop Me Now. What a great name. I think, especially for our Kiwi culture and the way we do business, when we set our sights high, even if in our sporting arena, it's for the bigger good of the industry's future or an injustice in our system that doesn't sit with us. Once we get going, you can't stop us now, even if sometimes it doesn't go exactly to plan. Sarah's Country resonates with that name. As soon as I set my sights on creating a primetime, interactive, rural show, it was all about the audience first during lockdown. And so therefore, Rocket Lab's last mission, I found out, was called Birds of a Feather. You have all flocked together around the show every night. It makes me so proud, either live Monday to Thursday or taking us with you on demand on podcast or, of course, on Farmers Weekly's YouTube channel. Your regular feedback flowing into me is absolutely incredible and keeps me feeling like that we're on the right track. We did the right thing. And a show like this, in its style and distribution, was needed to drive home those big conversations that we need to have. I'm humbled at hearing people chatting among themselves about, did you see that interview Sarah did the other night with so-and-so? It's not so much an ego boost. It means that you sharing Sarah's Country with your networks means that we're reaching more hearts and minds in the way that we farm our food and fibre, the way we do things now and how we should into the future. I learn something every night I interview. I feel like I'm getting a free degree here at Lincoln. Joel is certainly lapping up some amazing take-homes too about New Zealand's food and fibre production coming from Northern Ireland. During the day with our production company, we actually get the chance to get out of this cage, out of the studio. I let Joel out for a bit of a run around with the camera. And Joel, today we popped down to that Lincoln University demonstration dairy farm. It's pretty amazing what's going on with like big data in farming.
Oh, it's incredible what they're doing now with all of the sensors in the ground and the apps and the software they're putting together to measure everything and giving farmers like easy to use graphs that they can just look at, take a glance and be like, oh, do I need to irrigate the next 2 days? Oh, no, maybe not, because this is the forecast and this is what the soil's doing. And I just found it fascinating, so I did.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not only just with the show, but you physically being able to see it firsthand, Joel. Isn't it? It's just so amazing when people can experience something tangible. They learn so much more. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm definitely one to learn by looking and watching things. So I've learned a lot just from getting out on farm and chatting to folk and having things shown to me. It's very cool.
Very cool. Thank you, Joel, for sharing that. Now, first up, I want to announce some winners. You may have remembered in May, we had a special funny edition. Thanks to the wonderful people of Balance Agri Nutrients, we ran an online comedy event. It was huge, the numbers and the esteemed comedians we had on. Fantastic. Paul Ego, T-Radar, Gary McCormick, Justine Smith. It was so great. Now, the Balance team also ran a Facebook competition and, of course, a Pledge Me campaign to raise funds for Hawke's Bay farmers to attend a resilience workshop with Doug Avery. Please check out the Pledge Me page for more information. There's still time to donate. It can be as small as $5, as much as you like, because you'll know your money is directly going to educating ongoing long-term resilience in a mindset for these farmers who are struggling with the drought. I want to say a big congratulations to the winners of the competitions, Rob McNabb and Sean Andrews. Now, Rob's winning photo, Joel, have you got there? It was a proud moment as he taught his daughters how to shear. What a great life skill. My father hasn't showed me how to shear. He doesn't want me to take away from my title of head rousey, that's for sure. Now, Sean's photo He was a winner because of his ingenuity. Sean showed on farm, making feeding out more fun for him and his kids. For those of you who are listening on farm, he has fed out, I'm not sure what, probably grain, and it is in the shape of, what's that, Joel? A dog.
I'd say a monkey.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it's very clever. There's a lot of elements to it. You can have a love heart. It's pretty easy to do. But when you start adding bits in like that, it's very clever. Don't forget to check out that Pledge Me page, pledgeme.co.nz, and search for Drought Relief Fund. I've got my own show and tell photo for you this evening. Grandma's knitting. It's very psychedelic. For those of you who cannot see this listening on podcast, I think my grandma must have been wearing sunglasses inside when she was knitting this. It's incredible. It's an outstanding piece of knitting. So it's my sister. It is going to be my mother and father's first grandchild is due very, very shortly, and grandma's flat out knitting. If you could see that, you'll agree with me that I think that grandma should stick to her knitting. Coming up in Sarah's Country, we already knew that standard A1 milk is pro-inflammatory, but now there is new findings published by Nature Research showing A1 milk predisposes people to asthma and lung inflammation. This is big news. And of course, what follows big news with A2 is its share price, closing today now just shy of $19. Keith Woodford's going to join us after 7:20 to explain how this new scientific evidence gives more clout to the A2 movement for our dairy farmers. It's been a great few days of sales for This Is Bull sales, with the top price of the season being set higher again at $68,000. However, it is still generally a mixed bag on prices, and it is getting stronger as the season goes on. Hannah Gudsell is the National Livestock Partnership Manager for Global HQ, and she will discuss with us after 7:30 how that less stress in the air as bull sales have been able to proceed more as normal with COVID restrictions under level 1, and of course what's in store for those big Canterbury and Gisborne bull sales over the next coming weeks. To close the show, a great interview I'm very looking forward to. We are going to head to the Netherlands. We're going to catch up with Nuffield scholar Helene Lansink, who has some interesting views on her comparison of how women are regarded in our New Zealand primary sector more favourably than in her home country, and that's in her experience as a Dutch dairy farmer. All that after 7:40. To kick off the show, though, we're going to track down national, spokesperson for forestry, Hamish Walker, who is very concerned about the forestry's regulation being rushed through Parliament without any select committee consultation. Hear this out. No select committee consultation, dismissing a majority of the submissions and passing through Parliament faster than those gun laws post the Christchurch mosque shooting. What is going on with Shane Jones' obsession with this forestry policy? You're going to want to hear this. Now, all that is going to be after this awesome video. You may have already seen it, but I love it so much, I want to share it again. Some strong messages from our All Black captain, Sam Kane, to our Hawke's Bay farmers who need your love tonight. Thank you very much, Hugh Renton, for putting this together.
And I rise up, I like the waves, I rise up, in spite of the ache, I rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again.
Hey Hawke's Bay farmers, farming community and everyone associated with farming. Look, I know it's a heck of a tough time at the moment, and look, I'm not down there in the face of it, so I can't offer too much advice, but if I think of a tough time that I've been through was probably coming back from my neck injury, and the things that helped me were setting small goals and focusing on the things that I can control each day. Unfortunately for you fellas, you can't control the weather, so that's not one of them. But like, I encourage you to focus on those things that you do have control over and set some small goals every day. And probably the other thing that I found real helpful was getting in touch with mates, going for a coffee or a beer, and hopefully you guys can get through this. I know you will. Just hang tough. Things will get better. They have to. So look after each other. Hang in there. Keep getting up each day. And as Paul Renton would say, keep doing a darn good job.
The New Zealand Forest Owners Association has drafted an open letter to the Prime Minister asking her to step in and allow a proper consultation process for the bill. This is the Foresters' Regulation of Log Traders and Forestry Advisors Amendment Bill. It's going to oppose price, market and harvest controls over forestry exports, effectively subsidising domestic processing by directing log supplies to local sawmills, no matter how inefficient these mills are, or whether they can compete in an overseas timber market. Newly appointed National Party spokesperson for forestry and, of course, MP for Clutha-Southland, Hamish Walker joins us now. Good evening, sir.
Evening, Sarah. Evening, viewers.
Now, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Lots of new portfolios for you, and I'm sure you'll be excited to sink your teeth into this one. Why do you have valid concerns about it being rushed and impractical, Hamish?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head at the start. It's been a completely rushed process so far. I mean, the bill was put through on budget day during one of the worst crises we've ever faced as a country with COVID, and there's just no justifiable reason for the urgency. The bill's going quicker through than the Christchurch earthquake fire alarm laws. There's been no reasonable level of consultation with the industry. They were told 5 to 8 days before the select committee submission date where we heard from submitters, so they didn't even have time to consult each other. It's a terrible bill. We heard from round about 650 submitters. Only 11 out of 650 supported the bill. It basically creates a whole heap of new red tape regulation requiring everyone in the forestry industry to be registered. That includes, for example, machine operators, or if you work at a forestry company, an admin person. So the real scary part, though, is it enables the minister to set a tariff for log exporters. That's the really scary part, because what's next? Is he going to do that in the meat and the milk sector? So that's the really scary part of the bill, forcing domestic forest owners. There's about 15,000 of them in New Zealand. So they think long term. They're thinking sort of an average harvest is sort of 25 to 30 years, but often they think a number of rotations ahead, 90 to 100 years. So this is going to create red tape, regulation, and just a lot of uncertainty and decreased confidence in the sector.
It's very counterproductive, this involvement in a free market where we're putting tariffs on our exports. It seems absolutely ridiculous, Hamish. But, rushing bills through is nothing new for this government. But in terms of this next level of interfering in market forces and, of course, contradictory between our trade for economic recovery and, of course, their environmental stance, why do you believe they're trying to rush this through?
I think he's trying to solve. There's probably a few sawmillers in Northland who have struggled with supply of logs, but if you look at the reason why, there's a couple of reasons. 4 or 5 years ago, they harvested a lot of trees in Northland because the price was quite good back then. The other aspect is the sort of next 15, 20 years, because of that heavy harvesting 4 or 5, 6 years ago, they are going to have a lull in the market. He's basically trying to fix the Northland problem throughout the industry. But another possible fix raised by some submitters is that every port in New Zealand has the same policy in terms of who's allowed to put their logs on the wharfs. Basically, it's long-term log suppliers, trusted forestry suppliers. But Northport, the port in Whangarei, is the only port that allows basically anyone, any Tom, Dick and Harry, to come along and put your logs on the wharf. So if Northport possibly implemented a policy where they only supply trusted suppliers like every other port in New Zealand, that could be a potential fix. But I had Minister Jones in front of the Select Committee last Thursday, and I put all of these questions to him like the industry's been doing. He couldn't answer them, and you're spot on. It could result in a breach of New Zealand's World Trade Agreement by forcing logs to be sent domestically at a subsidised price. So there's huge concern. I was with a couple of logging gangs yesterday in West Otago. They're absolutely pulling their hair out because the minister's not listening. It's an abuse of power by putting it through a very rushed process. And also, too, this type of bill would normally go to the Primary Production Select Committee, where it's a split majority, so 4 national, 4 government. But he's put it through the Environment Select Committee for no other reason that the government's got a majority on it.
And on that, Minister O'Connor said that he wanted to rural-proof policies. We heard from Kerry Worsnop from Gisborne, who's tearing her hair out and having very sleepless nights about what this is going to do to our rural communities. One question she wanted me to put to Shane Jones was, are you really authentic about being the Regional Development Minister? How is he getting on with this support in the regions?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if you look at New Zealand First, quite clearly they say one thing during the campaign and then do another. But just on the rural proofing policy, I actually asked Minister O'Connor during the Primary Production Select Committee about a year ago, can you, Minister, or any of your officials point to any evidence where you've put a rural proofing ruler over any of your policies like you claim you would during the 2017 election? And he said no, he couldn't. So the proof's in the pudding. They like to talk big, but when it comes to actual policy, they don't really listen to anyone. As about 639 out of 650 submitters are against this bill for good reason.
Hamish, just before you go, I know the rural contractors have been actively on the streets in Queenstown. Can you tell us about the recruitment from tourism into the primary sector?
Yeah, so they're in Queenstown yesterday. They're in town now today. I was actually talking to them about 2 hours ago. So they had probably 150 people set back, so SIT. They're basically trying to get displaced tourism workers into the agricultural sector. So they run an expo yesterday in Queenstown, had about 150 through it. Today I think they had 60 or 70 through it, which is good. I think it's an awesome opportunity for anyone that even remotely thought about getting into the ag sector to give it a crack. There's a lot more opportunities than just, your typical farming. You can be a scientist, a marketer, you can go milking, you can get into meat, you can get into forestry. There's awesome opportunity. So they were they weren't sort of too impressed or too disappointed with the numbers, sort of as expected. But hopefully in the coming weeks they'll get a few people out of the expo yesterday and today in town now.
Fantastic. Keep up the great work, Hamish, and everything that you're doing there for your electorate of Clutha-Southland and your new portfolios. We look forward to talking to you leading into this wonderful 2020 election, which is now 100 days away. Coming up on Sarah's Country, after the break, we're going to be joined by agricultural industry stalwart Keith Woodford. He is bringing to our attention that A1 milk is having new research findings that it's going to be contributing to asthma and lung inflammatory. All that on Sarah's Country.
This is Sarah's Country.
Very excited about our next guest and have been looking for the right opportunity to invite him on. He is the agricultural industry commentator, Keith Woodford. Now, Keith predicted the global dairy disruptor that would become A2 milk, and new research findings have then gone on to prove that it's not just digestive health benefits, but the evidence demonstrating that A1 beta-casein, which is A1 milk, is not only pro-inflammatory, but is now linked to autoimmune conditions, asthma, and lung conditions. As I said, agricultural commentator Keith Woodford, who has held the position of honorary professor in agri-food systems here at Lincoln University, joins us now. Good evening, sir. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Good evening, Sarah.
Now,
and to all your listeners.
Keith, we've got a bit to cover here, but while I've got you here, I might throw you a few curly questions across the industry as well, because I know that you can answer anything. But firstly, this A1, A2 research specifically into inflammatory properties, how long has that been underway?
We've known that A1 is inflammatory for close on 10 years. And one of the early studies I was actually involved with, it was done at AgResearch, but I got roped into it. So we've had lots of evidence for a long time that it's pro-inflammatory and it affects the way the immune system works. But it's just been a case of putting together one bit of evidence after another. It tended to be evidence that people didn't want to hear, so it hasn't always been as widely heard as it could have been. But recently we've had another bit of that evidence come through, which is published by Nature Research, which makes it a bit harder to ignore. And this particular work was done with mice, and that's because whoever it was done on had to make the supreme sacrifice at the end, so that all their bits and pieces could be analysed. So this one was done with mice. But the interesting thing was that although we knew all about this pro-inflammatory stuff, no one had ever looked at it in relation to asthma. And what this study has shown is that the A1 milk sets up all the same biochemical reactions that occur in humans and almost all species, but then it makes you more susceptible to asthma. It's not necessarily saying that it's the fundamental cause of asthma, but it predisposes people to getting asthma. So it's another part of another little bit of the jigsaw that's just all coming together over time.
Okay, just for those who are listening who don't know the difference between A1 and A2, and a quick summary and the difference in terms of the animal type that are more native to A2, could you explain that?
Yes, well, all animals originally were A2, and even now all sheep, goats, horses and humans produce milk that is A2. So do African cattle, so do Asian cattle. But a lot of the European cattle, or cattle of European origin, like we have in New Zealand, as a result of a mutation probably several thousand years ago, produce a different version of beta-casein. And when that beta-casein digests, it releases a little opioid fragment, we call it a peptide, but just think of it as a fragment, and then that does all sorts of funny things in the system. So I've been arguing for 15 years now that we need to be shifting our cattle to A2. It's not hard to do. The major breeding companies are all on board now, but in New Zealand we were defensive for a long time. We chose to see it as a threat rather than an opportunity. We're still not making the best use out of it. Our farmers should be getting paid a lot more for A2 milk. The big international companies who can't get it from New Zealand, but they're getting it from farmers that I know in other parts of the world. Those farmers are getting big premiums, and New Zealand farmers aren't.
Keith, in terms of that
about
defensiveness, I totally agree with you. And I have been on the other end of interviewing certain industry people in the last couple of years that in the dairy industry that have came out and said, oh, people who can't stomach real milk, they're just a minority. As I was saying, the older I get, the less I can consume. And I do not want to have plant-based milk. So hence A2 and lactose-free milk has been a saviour for me. Let's talk about that whole, how far the industry's come in your mind. You've been in this game a long time, Keith. We're all jumping up and down at the moment about how we've become wonderful collaborators. What do you believe? Do you think that's true?
Well, what do you mean by collaborators? Who's collaborating and with who?
I'd say between interdisciplinary science as well as pan-sector industry bodies coming together on similar issues, those types of things.
Yes, there's a lot of talk and a lot of words. I suppose one of the things I've been thinking about just recently is that a lot of people are saying, for example, we have to diversify away from China for various reasons. And I say, yes, well and good, but where are you going to diversify to? Because all these other places are not quite so easy. China is actually a remarkable easy place to do business, and that's why our rural exports increased so much to China. If we want to succeed in some of the other, for example, the ASEAN countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, there's 10 of them altogether, the ASEAN countries, we have to learn how to collaborate with supply chain partners in those countries. And I've been thinking quite a lot about that lately as I go for walks around the hills, that we really aren't very good at collaborating with value chain partners. And that's one of the reasons why we still end up selling lots of our product at auction and transaction based rather than getting the premium. Very hard for us to develop markets in those countries. So we do need to collaborate with the local people in those supply chains.
And before we go, Keith, what's your thoughts on agri-food systems and the ongoing commentary around what is regenerative agriculture in its term, as well as what does it mean for New Zealand's farming systems?
Well, I think we've always in New Zealand tried to have farming systems that made sense ecologically, and that's why we used white clover. We use that less now. I think we've still got quite a lot of challenges from an ecological perspective and things we need to do. And so in that context, yes, it's great to be talking about regenerative agriculture, but sometimes I think that people are saying the word without really knowing what they even themselves mean by it. So, there's a lot of people in the rural community, the urban community, that keep talking about, oh yes, all these things farmers have got to do, but they don't actually have a very high knowledge level. Just this afternoon, this might be sort of a bit aside and a bit irrelevant, but I just happened to be coming home in the car and I had the national radio on, and there I heard Steve Wynne-Irwin from Hawke's Bay. Of course, he's a commentator on Farmers Weekly as well. But he was just talking about some of the things that he's been doing on his farm. And I thought, as I was driving along, I thought, this is wonderful because he's got an audience there of probably some hundreds of thousands of
liberal urban people listening to National. Yep.
Absolutely. And I thought, what a job we've still got in the rural, those who are in the rural sort of part of the community, to try and increase the understanding in the urban community about what it really is all about.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Keith. Now, I have to ask, is that a Hallswell quarry behind you? Because that noise has been very interesting in the background. Or is someone picking up your recycling? No? There's not a bit of a grumbling dump truck out the back?
Well, yeah, what you're referring to there, but yeah, the Hallswell Quarry Park is just a couple of 100 metres from our home, and that's a wonderful resource, and it has been remarkable over the last few weeks how many people are using that resource. That I think the people of Christchurch, anyway, are really getting out into the outdoors in a way they haven't done before.
Oh, I know. And they've still got a big Banks Peninsula to explore. You never see anyone out there, do you, Keith?
I'm often out there with my wife.
It's lovely. Thank you so much, Keith. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll catch up soon and continue the conversation. There's a few issues we've got to work our way through. Now, there's Keith Woodford, agricultural commentator and, of course, big advocate for A2 milk and has been for decades. Up next, we're jumping in the rostrum to talk bull sales, that is, with National Livestock Partnership Manager Hannah Gudsell on the renewed confidence beef farmers are feeling with some outstanding prices being fetched across the sales season. But will it continue? All that up next on Sarah's Country.
This is Sarah's Country.
Balance has its own team of innovation specialists. It's our job to lead the way, working with some of the most cutting-edge science and research. We've got partnerships with some of the best suppliers in the world, so our farmers get the very best products for New Zealand farms.
And in every region across the country, the conditions are very different, and farmers and growers' needs are too.
That's why we're always looking for solutions that are just right, like here at our Huntly Service Centre.
And here in Canterbury, we've got a self-service silo, so I can pick up fat when it suits me.
And here in Morrinsville, we've got a world-class mill. That means that we can safely deliver our customers with the freshest, highest quality feed and minerals.
It's about putting the customer first because that's what drives our business.
We've been focusing on faster turnaround of orders. We've got to get the right products to the right places at the right times.
Here in Taranaki, we've got New Zealand's only urea manufacturing plant. It's where we create our premium sustained fertiliser.
We're supplying nationwide and working locally. By getting to know you and what you want to achieve, we can help you get there.
And with the new My Balance platform, Balance has put my farm at my fingertips.
In fact, we offer support in all sorts of ways, sharing the best nutrition practice with farming families across the country. Whether we're talking about animal health, farm productivity,
or looking after our natural environment, sustainability underpins everything we do. We use our local expertise and the latest tools to help farmers and growers navigate the changing regulations, so you can leave your farm in great shape for the future.
And we can be really accurate, avoiding areas like wetlands and waterways with our award-winning Spread Smart tech. It makes the job far safer, more efficient, and gives you the best results.
When you've got access to that kind of know-how, you've got the support you need to make sure you're farming sustainably. It's that kind of thinking that'll keep us going for generations to come.
Together creating the best soil and feed on earth.
The backlog of cattle into the processing plants is beginning to ease. Prices for prime cattle in the sale yards are above the equivalent schedule price, indicating that competition for finished cattle is heating up. Post-COVID restrictions on bull sale season is into the swing of things, with, of course, now back to normal. And, of course, what is really into the swing is those prices. Fetching this week, the top price of the season, $68,000. A bull going from Brooklyn Station to a partnership of Umbrella Range and Argyle Station down south. Joining us now to discuss this is National Livestock Partnership Manager for Global HQ, Hannah Gudsell. And she's going to give us a bit of a wrap on how the sentiment and the dollars are passing through these rostrums around the country. Welcome, Hannah. Firstly, I really wanted to let our audience know about the awesome new bull sale update that people can subscribe to and that information that you're getting out there thanks to PBB, Performance Beef Breeders.
Yeah, so we send out a bull sales EDM on a Tuesday and Thursday. You can flick me an email at livestock@globalhq.co.nz or sign up through our website and that comes out twice weekly, gives a wrap of all the sales that we've managed to get a hold of, the results. And we've also just put up a platform on our website as well that gives a tabled results. All of the ones so far, which is a bit hard to find when you're trying to find one result, we've all put them in one place, which makes it a bit easy, and PBB would be awesome and come on board, which is great as well.
That's awesome. So just clarifying for our older audience, an EDM is an email, just so that you know. So you go livestock@globalhq.co.nz, send Hannah an email, and you will get an email from her twice a week with all of those prices. So let's talk us through the kickoff for the sales this year. What about the difference between breeds, Angus versus Hereford? Hereford seems pretty strong.
Yeah, so Hereford are having a pretty strong year. Prices across the board aren't as good for some breeders, but a lot of studs are bucking the trend as such, and they're having higher than average prices. Angus generally do sell a bit higher, but we are seeing those good strong Hereford prices coming through. Also for your exotics as well, so you've had some good Charolais results. Hemmingford had their sale today, and they had a couple go for 16, which was real good. Some South Devons, Kaimoa had a real good sale. And yes, the Simmentals as well. Kira Simmentals had 18,000 as their top price, which was about on par as last year, and also the average went up. So we're seeing some good prices across the board with different breeds, which is quite good.
What about these clearance rates? Because I talked to Cam Higgy, and there was sort of an encouragement of sort of cutting down the numbers that the bulls that they were putting up, and so therefore to improve these clearance rates.
Yeah, so a lot of breeders put up a smaller quantity of bulls, but then again, you've got better quality, so they're often having a better clearance rates. There is still a bit of a mixed bag with results, so some studs have had a lower clearance rate, unfortunately, but that's just due to COVID and all the things that have been happening this year. But people are generally getting good clearance rate, but there are still bulls out there. I do encourage people to get in touch with the breeder whose sale's been, if they do know there has been a couple of bulls left over in the paddock, because I do know they are wanting to move them.
What I'm absolutely stoked about is the list that you sent me through of these bull sales that are getting behind these charities, and it could be everything from Silver Serum Charolais supporting the Canterbury AMP show through to Tamania last year supported Will to Live. Could you give a bit of a wrap and a shout out to some of these studs and what they're supporting?
Yeah, so Tamania again are doing a donation bull, and half of that is to St John and half is to Cheviot House and School. And then you've got Silverstream, Rycon and Beechwood. They've all given a bull's proceeds towards the New Zealand Ag Show, which is vital to keep it alive for next year. And then there was a Hereford stud, Matatoki, down that were doing $100 per bull to St John. And that's just a few off the top of my head, but it's great to see breeders getting behind causes, and that Angus and Hereford are pushing people. It is a COVID year, it is a difficult year, but one bull, if you can spare it, is great, and it just helps charities out so much.
Now, I know that you said that we shouldn't probably talk too much about the online platforms, but just as a bit of an overview, has there been studs that have continued through and utilised the online platforms, or has everybody pretty much reverted back to their on-farm sales?
So I think at the start, everyone had to put a contingency plan in place just in case they couldn't have an on-farm sale. Online platforms did see studs pull off some of their sales, but that was expected because they said at the start, if we can have on-farm, we're going to do an on-farm sale. But there has been an uptake of your Bidder, Auction Plus, My Livestock streaming. Some people have streamed it through their Facebook page. It's just allowing a large audience to have a look. And it just means that I know for a couple of studs, they've had breeders come and have a fly down, have a look at a couple of bulls they were interested in, and then had a bid online because they couldn't make the actual sale date. So it just gives a bit more flexibility, but it also gives for next year, people have had a chance to have a look online at their sales. Like, oh, I might go have a look at this one next year, and I think it'll really open the market up.
And what's your predictions going forward? Some of these really beefy Canterbury sales with some big numbers through the rostrum, as well as, of course, those very sought-after East Coast cattle in Gizzy. What do you reckon? Is people holding out for those big numbers that we might see some record prices?
I don't know if we'll see record prices, but I think we will see really strong prices. I think the fact that people can actually get to those sales under level 1 restrictions, so there'll be no number restrictions. I know Te Mania was making everyone register, but now that's a bit obsolete. So just check all like pages, Facebook pages and stuff like that. But I think we're going to have a good cracking few weeks to come.
Yeah, I know. Tim Wilding will be gutted because he thought he might have been able to save on booze, only having 100 people there. But everyone's still going.
A bit of making up for the sales that they couldn't have a bit of a drink at, but that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Hannah, for all that you do in the livestock field for Global HQ and working closely with the team at Agri HQ. We'll give you a bit of a shout out again. Email Hannah, livestock@globalhq.co.nz if you want an email to drop into your inbox, giving you all of those bull sale results so you don't have to go looking. That's National Livestock Partnership Manager Hannah Gudsell. Now, after the break, to close the show, we're going to jump across to the Netherlands. Nuffield scholar Helene Lansink is going to join us, and I'm very interested in this as she believes that New Zealand females have more respect and regard here in our primary sector than they do in the Netherlands. All that after the break.
This is Sarah's Country.
Growing a better world takes courage. It takes foresight and vision. It's about dreaming big, then being brave enough to follow that dream through. To create a world where food is plentiful, soils are healthy, and rivers run crystal clear. A world where we grow more with less, where livestock is tended to with care. Energy is friend, not foe, and waste is a valuable resource. This is the world you're already shaping through imagination, innovation, and determination. So as small steps become huge leaps, you move boldly forward. And Rabobank is there beside you to help grow a better world together.
Really pleased we got into this. Thanks for your help, Dave.
It's a good idea, honey. You reckon it'll come out? Cover it in talcum powder, leave it 10 minutes, and you'll be fine. Good call, Dave.
Good call on getting those security cameras, Dave.
You caught a new one yet?
Yeah, kind of.
When you've got decisions to make, we'll be there to help you make the right call.
I'd go for those ones, Bob. Yeah, good call.
Did you choose these?
Oh, you know.
For great advice and insurance, talk to FMG.
I was actually just thinking there over the break, and believe it or not, I don't classify myself as a feminist, but I am so proud of the wonderful, strong and beautiful women that are running the livestock commentary across Agri HQ. Mel Crow, Nicola Dennis, Suze Bremner, and look out there, amazing Hannah Gudsell, who's coming up through the ranks, giving us that commentary on bull selling season. She's just amazing. Yet, how many female stock agents have we got in New Zealand? Huh? Then why? And what is those barriers? Because I certainly field calls from women that certainly want to enter into the livestock industry. Let's work on that. That would be great. Thanks, team. Now, Michael Ross Joel wants to know if you got your bags packed for your holiday and says happy 60th to Bob. Thanks, Michael. And Mark Warren said, perhaps we should be considering regenerative farming as a mindset, not a prescriptive methodology. Mark Warren, In everything that you've ever said to me, I don't think you could be more right. I think that we're trying to put a label and boxes to tick around regen because that is how we try to operate in this industry. We don't understand around what it is to have a certain mindset, which is prescriptive to our own operation, our own life, and our own beliefs. We'll get there. Now, Dutch dairy farmer and Nuffield scholar Helene Lansink left New Zealand recently with a heightened appreciation of the differences between the roles of women in agriculture in this country and her home country, the Netherlands. Helene lives and works with her husband Rogie and their 4 children on a dairy farm in eastern Holland, close to the German border. They've got 85 milking cows on 55 hectares. On her trip here, which took her around the world as well, she investigated the evolving role of the farmer's wife, partner, in her key position as a driver in the transition to sustainable supported agriculture. And she joins us now. Thank you so much, Helene, for taking the time to join us on Sarah's Country. Welcome.
Good morning, New Zealand, from a rainy the Netherlands.
Oh, we like rain.
Yeah, we started out dry again this season, so I'm very happy right now seeing it outside raining.
Fantastic. Now, you tell us about how you've fallen in love with our country on your visit here.
Yeah, definitely fell in love, and also broke my heart because I was planning to a trip for 4.5 weeks. It's like a lot of time for a young mother of 4, and so I was planning to come back at the 1st of April, but due to the COVID crisis, I had to fly back after 2 weeks, and I had like an whole 2 weeks in front of me with all these beautiful appointments and visits. So I just arrived on Saturday on the Southern Island after I spent 2 weeks on the Northern Island. And then I decided on Sunday, well, I have to go back because they're shutting down airplanes and all kinds of things. So I was back after 2 weeks. But it was a tremendous 2 weeks, and I did see a lot. Probably didn't see enough, but I really like your country.
Tell us about some of the wonderful women that you did meet and what you learnt about their trials and tribulations, challenges, but yet opportunities that they have faced in their career through the primary sector.
Yeah, my topic is about the role of the women, and I see an important role, especially in transition. I heard a little bit of the show in front, and I heard that we have like similar things on the plate of the board, so the pressure is high, and I see an important role for the women because in general it's like a sensitive subject, but in general we communicate better, we engage more to society, and that's I think what we need, because the problems are so big that we need society to help us solve all those loss of biodiversity, animal welfare things. We have some water, nitrogen problems, all kinds of things. So I was keen on looking for in which countries do they have it organized, or do they have networks, or do they educate or something. And I was really interested in New Zealand because I saw on the internet in front also that you have like the Dairy Woman Network, the Rural Woman Networks, and I think I was hosted by some kind of interesting people in New Zealand, because I was in the beginning I met Tracy Brown. Well, it's I think a perfect example for what I'm looking for, and if you can bring those women together and educate them and getting them as a real leader and train them to that, and giving them the stage where they can tell their stories, tell their difficulties, what's the regulation doing on what's the impact on the family farm and all kinds of things. It's very important. And it was very inspiring to meet Tracy, but also I visited Jenna Hogan, and that's, I think, the perfect example for what I'm searching for, because I fell in love with my husband. I did not fall in love with a farmer. I fell in love with my husband. So spontaneously, I became a farmer's wife. And so my background is not in egg business. But now I think, because I was a teacher, so I like to tell stories and educate and all kinds of, I can use those values into the egg business. And I think if we can search it more, and if you get programs on that kind of value you're adding to the egg business, and especially right now, because the pressure is so high, I think we have a lot of unused potential over there. And if you look at Jenna Hogan, I don't know if I pronounce it right.
Yeah, this is the author of The Lean Dairy Farm.
She wasn't working in the dairy sector, but she was like a lean, how do you say, a special
management specialist.
In the lean method. She added that method into the dairy sector, and look at her right now, how much value she's adding into the sector. So I think in the Netherlands, quite a innovative, how do you say it, innovative sector in the Netherlands, because we're the second largest country in the world on egg business. But we also have our problems, and we always, I think, mainly did it technical. We searched for solution on the technical way, and now I think it's more about the social things we have to solve, because otherwise we lose the license to produce. And that's a different kind of. It's easy if you look at technical solutions, because you can measure it and all kinds of things. The social impact, you cannot measure social impact compared to, the technical details. But we do need to go outside our egg bubble on the social field.
You're so right. Helena, I'd just like to ask you, we opened up there about the differences between New Zealand and the Netherlands. I know you have a lot of smaller farms and the farming infrastructure is different. Could you tell us more about the attitudinal difference between the Netherlands and New Zealand in terms of the role of females in the sector?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I was really, what I've seen gave me so much energy to do the same in the Netherlands, to start up a dairy woman network. But then I was thinking, well, if you are a female farmer in New Zealand, the cities and your sport aren't so close compared to the Netherlands. We are a small country with a lot of small-scale farms. I have everything on 2 kilometers on the bicycle. I can go to sport, I can go to the cafe, I can do my groceries. The cities and the society is way closer in the Netherlands compared to, for example, New Zealand or the US or Canada or something. So what you see in the Netherlands is that if you marry into a farmer, you stay in your own job and you're not going to work, or there is no place on the farm to work because the farms are smaller. But also it's not necessary. You can still drive to your job and to your work, and it's only a half an hour drive. And the kids are going to school and going to kindergarten, and it's all close. My sport is close. So your social life is close to the farm. So the urge of getting in a group together and share your feelings and your difficulties, I think it's not so high compared to like really rural areas compared to New Zealand. So I think the need for women to get off the farm is not so big, because they are still going off the farm.
I've got a
They
comment.
still have their
on
their own jobs. Yeah.
I've got a comment here that a lot of the major ag sector businesses, there's a high proportion of women that are in the finance side of these businesses. Have you come across that in terms of the corporate side of agriculture in the Netherlands?
Yeah, you see in the Netherlands, board members of boards, they have really difficulties to search for females to get into the board. But you see, like on the big corporation, for example, our milk good to Friesland Campina, You see that they have like 50% male and 50% female, but then the communication from the corporation to the farmers, they only communicate with my husband and not with me. And I ask for a different kind of communication. For example, I make a joke about it, but I think it's so serious. If we go to like a corporation meeting, afterwards in the evening, you get like a big sandwich with a lot of meat. I don't like a big sandwich with a lot of meat in the evening. Well, that's so you need like a different communication. And I think they can go search for the women, because I did a little investigation. All the farmers' wives in the Netherlands are 50% owner of the farm. All the farmers' wives are, for mostly 90%, are involved with making big decisions. So the involvement in the company is big, is almost 50%. But when I asked the females, how many times are you going to agricultural meetings? They go only 0 to 3 times to agricultural meetings. When there is somebody coming into the farm for advice or something, nobody comes to visit the female. Always looking for the man. It's the same for me. They only thank me for the coffee and then they leave. Well, yeah, so I think there is a lot of unused potential. And I'm likely as you, I'm not a feminist, but I think there's so much unused potential that we can use as an ag sector to communicate more with the women on the farms.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when they're 50% decision makers in charge of that checkbook, Helena, women will just vote with their pen or their dollar, won't they, in terms of how they've been treated. And hopefully things will change over time. But it's interesting there, just in terms of the size of the farm, the close proximity to urban population, and women having those jobs off farm, how much of a difference that can make in terms of that involvement, that diversity of thinking in those business decision making. So I congratulate you on your Nuffield topic, and what you've taken away from New Zealand has given us a wee humble chuff. And I know that there's a lot of men watching this that absolutely agree that woman involved in our farm brings a different perspective, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. It's the morning there in the Netherlands, and that's all we've got time for tonight. Now, if you've missed any of Sarah's Country, make sure you check us out on podcast. If you haven't got into podcasts, how about you have a wee go this weekend? And when you get there, you find Sarah's Country, subscribe, and they'll automatically download for you so that when you're out there out of reception, you can listen to some of the shows. All on demand. And of course, you can go back to Farmers Weekly's YouTube channel as well. As you may have been following, we are going to hang up the headphones for a week. We'll be back on Monday, the 22nd of June. Myself and Joel Rock are taking a self-acclaimed, well-deserved break, having pivoted in lockdown to a live daily show, putting in the big hours. I'd like to have a round of applause to my producer tonight, Joel Rock. And if you agree with me, all our regular listeners, please give a thumbs up to the amazing work that Joel Rock has done. You don't see it all, I do, behind the camera, pulling something technically challenging, just the two of us throughout this time. We'll be back, as I said, on Monday, the 22nd of June, straight in with Minister Shane Jones lined up, among a lot of your latest stories that hit the front page of Farmers Weekly. So check out farmersweekly.co.nz. Make sure you subscribe to My Daily Digest as well to keep up with that in your inbox every night. Now, I just want to end the show by saying to my female friends out there, if a man ever says to you, "What the hell would you know?" reply, "Different to you." Good night.
This is Sarah's Country.